Could President Biden be impeached? A question that sparks a flurry of thoughts and debates. Often, impeachment is seen as a political weapon, but what does it truly entail? Is it a simple process or a complex series of legal maneuvers? And most importantly, under what circumstances could such a measure be considered for President Biden? These questions and more are what we aim to unravel. In this video, you'll discover the process of impeachment and whether President Biden could potentially face it. So, what does it mean when a president is impeached? Impeachment, in essence, is a power granted to Congress by the Constitution to remove presidents before their term is up. But it's not just presidents. Other public officials can also face impeachment. It's essentially a formal charge of misconduct. Think of it as a legal indictment in criminal law. To put it plainly, impeachment is a process that begins in the House of Representatives, where any member can suggest an investigation into whether an impeachable offense has occurred. This offense can range from treason and bribery to other high crimes and misdemeanors, a phrase intentionally left vague by the framers of the Constitution. Now, let's take a brief journey back in time. The concept of impeachment has its roots in English law, but the framers of the U.S. Constitution uniquely expanded its use as a way of ensuring the government's accountability to the people. In fact, the very first impeachment in the United States was of a senator in 1797, a clear indication that this power was intended to be used as a check on all branches of government. Over the years, impeachment has played a significant role in the American political landscape. It's a process that, while rarely used, has the potential to significantly alter the course of history. It's a tool of last resort, a final check on those in power, and its mere mention can send ripples through the political world. However, it's important to note that impeachment does not automatically mean removal from office. It's merely the first step of a two-step process. An impeachment is akin to a formal accusation, while the trial and potential removal happen in the Senate. Now that you understand what impeachment is, let's move on to how it works. Impeachment isn't a simple process, but it's a crucial part of the checks and balances within our government. Now let's unravel this complex process together, step by step. The impeachment process begins in the House of Representatives, the lower chamber of the United States Congress. It's here where the initial investigation takes place. Members of the House can introduce an impeachment resolution, or the House can vote to initiate an investigation into whether there are grounds for impeachment. This is the first step, the initiation. Following the initiation comes the investigation. The House Judiciary Committee or another special committee conducts an investigation into the allegations against the president. They gather evidence, hear testimonies, and essentially build the case. This is a bit like a detective piecing together the clues in a complex puzzle. Once the investigation is complete, the committee reviews the evidence and drafts articles of impeachment, essentially formal charges against the president. Each article outlines a specific allegation. It's a bit like a charge sheet in a criminal case. Now comes the big vote. The committee votes on each article of impeachment. If at least one gets a majority vote, the president is considered impeached in the House. This is where the phrase, impeachment by the House, comes from. It's important to note that impeachment at this stage doesn't mean removal from office. It's more like an indictment in criminal law. There's enough evidence to warrant a trial, but the final verdict hasn't been reached yet. Following the House vote, the process moves to the Senate, the upper chamber of Congress. Here, a trial takes place. It's presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and senators act as the jury. The House appoints members, known as managers, to present the case against the president. The president can have his own lawyers for defense. After hearing the evidence, the senators deliberate in private and then vote on each article of impeachment. A two-thirds majority is needed on any one article for the president to be convicted and removed from office. If this supermajority isn't achieved, the president is acquitted and remains in office. That's the impeachment process in a nutshell. But how would this apply to President Biden? Now, armed with knowledge about the impeachment process, we can explore the possibility of President Biden's impeachment. In the realm of American politics, impeachment is a tool, a constitutional provision to maintain checks and balances. It's designed to keep the president on his toes, ensuring that he or she acts in the best interest of the nation. So, let's delve into the circumstances under which President Biden could potentially face impeachment, without assuming any political predictions or outcomes. Impeachment isn't a simple matter of disapproval or dissatisfaction. with the president's policies or actions. It requires an accusation of high crimes and misdemeanors, as stated in the U.S. Constitution. This term isn't explicitly defined, leading to much debate about what actions can be deemed impeachable. Historically, these have ranged from abuse of power and obstruction of justice to perjury and bribery. In the case of President Biden, like any other president, he could be impeached if he were to commit such a high crime or misdemeanor. It's also worth noting that the impeachment proceedings would only be initiated if there's political will in Congress. As we've learned, impeachment is as much a political process as it is a legal one. Now let's consider the current political climate. The House of Representatives, where impeachment proceedings begin, is narrowly controlled by the Democrats, President Biden's own party. Historically, it is highly unusual for a president's own party to initiate impeachment proceedings against him. The Senate, which would conduct the trial after impeachment, is also evenly split between Democrats and Republicans, with Vice President Harris holding the tie-breaking vote. This doesn't mean that President Biden is immune from impeachment, but it does indicate that the political will to initiate such a process might be lacking unless there's a significant shift in power or a serious accusation of a high crime or misdemeanor against him. It's also important to remember that impeachment is only the first step. Removal from office requires a 2/3 majority in the Senate, a bar that's even harder to reach. Only 3 presidents in U.S. history have been impeached: Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. But none were removed from office. So could President Biden be impeached? The Constitution allows for it, as it does for any president. But the reality is that it would require a convergence of serious accusations, political will, and a shift in congressional power. While the possibility exists, it's important to remember that impeachment is a complex and serious process. The decision to pursue it is never taken lightly, and it's certainly not a guaranteed outcome even when initiated. As we continue to watch the political landscape unfold, we must remember that the power of impeachment is a serious one, reserved for the most egregious of offenses against the United States and its people. Today, you've learned a lot about impeachment and how it might apply to the current president. We began by unraveling the concept of impeachment, a powerful tool in the United States Constitution that allows Congress to hold the highest offices of the land accountable. It's not simply a legal issue, but also a political one, deeply woven into the fabric of our democracy. We then delved into the intricate process of impeachment, starting from the initiation of an inquiry in the House of Representatives, moving through the drafting and voting on articles of impeachment, and culminating in a trial in the Senate. It's a complex journey reflecting the gravity of this constitutional provision. Finally, we explored the question on everyone's lips: could President Biden be impeached? We discussed that while theoretically possible, impeachment requires a majority in the House and a 2/3 majority in the Senate. It's a high bar to clear and not a process to be taken lightly. The power of impeachment is a testament to the checks and balances that underpin our democracy. It's a process that demands transparency, accountability, and above all, a commitment to the principles of justice and fairness. If you found this video informative, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful discussions. Remember, knowledge is power.